Tobacco companies and stores in the EU have 1 year to sell their old stock before this new packaging must be used exclusively. And here to talk about this new regulation and how it affects the industry is Matt Myers. He's president of the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. So is this a step in the right direction? Will it make a difference?
It's very much a step in the right direction, and it will make a difference. You know, just like the tobacco industry for years used images to make their products cool and attractive, pictorial health warnings on cigarette packs have shown to dramatically increase the awareness of the relative risk, discourage kids from starting, and prompt adults to quit. That's why the tobacco industry is fighting it so hard.
What about this gentleman we just heard from? It was kind of, I know you smiled, I did. Unfortunately, we know we are stupid. I guess some people, it's not going to impact though, I guess.
Well, it won't impact everybody, but we have seen in a great number of countries that have adopted graphic warning labels that it does in fact prompt a great number of people to quit. It also does something very important, and that is it reminds young people, children before they've started, of the actual risk. It portrays it in a way they can understand, very different than the words that have been on cigarette packs in Europe for all these years.
What about Philip Morris, the companies that say, come on, this isn't fair?
Well, what isn't fair is that Philip Morris's products kill 1 out of 2 long-term users, that they have used the Marlboro cowboy in images to attract kids for literally generations. For the first time, the government is fighting back using the exact same kind of images to make sure people understand precisely how dangerous cigarettes are. The reason Philip Morris doesn't like it is because it works.
Let me, we've got a graphic. Let's put this up and take a look at it. It's showing where most of the world's cigarettes are sold. And these are the statistics. 2 out of every 3 cigarettes sold in the Asia Pacific, 64%. Europe, 19%. The Middle East, Africa, North America, and Latin America, all below 10%. How surprising are these numbers when you look at them?
Well, these numbers aren't surprising when you watch how the tobacco industry has gone about marketing its products. Even as usage in Europe and the United States has gone down, they have dramatically increased their marketing dollar in low and middle income countries, particularly in Southeast Asia. You know, what's going on in Europe isn't the only place where there's change coming. India has just adopted graphic warning labels that are even larger, which is incredibly important because the number of the members of its population who can't read.
Matt, you were telling me before we did the interview, off and on, you've been at this for 30 years. And I've talked to other people who've been in this fight for a while. And there seems to be a real concern about these e-cigarettes because they're kind of this concept, well, they're not as bad and that sort of thing. Talk to me about that. And it seems as though there are efforts now to try and regulate them as well. And I imagine that's something you embrace.
Well, the new European Product Directive does do that. It takes a step in the right direction. It eliminates the kind of cross-border advertising where e-cigarette manufacturers have used the exact same images as cigarette manufacturers used to make its products cool among young people. In the United States, we've seen a dramatic rise in e-cigarette use among kids. When you go across Europe, you see lots of young people using it. E-cigarettes may or may not help smokers quit, but the one thing they shouldn't be allowed to do is portray them as attractive to young people in order to entice young people who don't previously use nicotine to start.
So for someone in this fight, is this an opponent that bobs and weaves? Because that was one of the complaints I heard from somebody who's been at the, the e-cigarette thing, suddenly, boom, we're going in this direction, now we've got to move over here.
Well, our concern is that we have made dramatic progress in reducing cigarette use and changing young people's perceptions of cigarettes. The danger to e-cigarettes is it will undo that progress. That's why it is so important to ban the kind of advertising. And the other thing that Europe has done that is a very strong step forward is it's preventing e-cigarette manufacturers from making health claims, claiming that it's safer without going through government approval process.
Matt Myers, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
And my pleasure.